Fab, thanks, Andy. Morning, everybody. I've been on a bit of an emotional roller coaster in the last few months. And when I tell you what I've been trying to do over the last few months, a few of you will no doubt sympathize with me a lot because you've been through the same thing. And over the last couple of months, I've been trying to do two very simple things. One, sell a house. Two, buy a different house. And it starts really, really well because you get a few agents in to say, I want to sell my house. You know, do you think you'll be able to sell it? How much do you think it's cost? And it starts absolutely fantastic because a few agents come in and apparently all of them think that they can sell my house and it's going to be really easy. And not only that, they tell me how much I'm going to get from a house, which is far more than I could imagine. And so my optimism and my hope starts to rise straight on. And so I pick one agent to represent me. It goes up on Rightmove. And lo and behold, people start to show interest in my house. I'm like, this is fantastic. And so they start to come and the bookings start to get signed up and they start to come and have a look. Now, I've went with an agent who's an online agent, which means a lot of stuff's done through the app. And so when people have been to see it, they tell you what they think of your house. But they can do it through an app, which is quite impersonal. And one or two might have said that my house wasn't great and they didn't want it. And so my optimism starts to dive. And so at the same time, I'm looking for a house. And so you go on Rightmove and there's all sorts of houses and you think, wow, this is great. There's so many to choose from. And Karen and I identify our criteria and we see some that we really like and we think we'll go and watch them, have a look at them. And I can remember the first time we identified 3 houses we went to see. It's like by the end of the day, we're going to have a house. And we get to the first house and we open the car door and we stand in the street. And obviously we didn't look that closely at the map because there's a motorway right next to the garden. And we're outside the house and it's like, I don't think this is the right house for us. And by the end of the day, for various reasons, none of the houses were suitable. And our optimism starts to dive. And then someone comes to see my house. A couple come to see it. They live down south and they look around the house. And as they leave, they say this to me. They say, how do we put an offer in? Up through the roof. I said, well, you put it through the app. That's fantastic. And I said, well, we're just up for the weekend. And then on the night, they say, actually, we've cancelled all our other viewings tomorrow. We'd like to come see yours for the second time tomorrow. Is that okay before we go back? Optimism, hope. This is absolutely fantastic. They come, they have a look around. And I think as they leave, they're going to say, we'll be putting an offer in. And as they leave, things get slightly ambiguous. Because as they leave, they say, we'll have to think about it. And then later on, they message me and say, it's not quite right for us. And the hope starts to go down. And then we're looking at houses, and we see actually the perfect house, and we go and see it, and we put a few offers in that haven't quite worked, but we see this one is absolutely fantastic. It's the perfect house for us. And so we think we're going to go for this house. This house is ours. Loads of people are viewing it, but you know what? We're just going to smash the asking price. We're just going to put a ridiculous offer in, which we do. And the agent says, you know what? You're the top offer. We thought, this is it. We're going to get a house. We are the top offer. We just need to sort out the details of the mortgage. If you could just send that through so we can do all the financials. And I think they're going to accept your offer because it's the top one. And we just sort out the details that day to send them through. And the next day, the agent says, by the way, just so you know, they've accepted a different offer. And it goes, I'm loving the sympathy. This is really good. Thank you. This is nothing to do with a message. This is just therapy for me. And I'm really... I really appreciate it. And then this week, I sell my house and we get an offer accepted on another house. And so we bought a house and we've sold a house. And so we're kind of going up again. All right, so I've been on an emotional roller coaster. And, oh, look at this. This is great. And that's it. Thank you. And so I've been on this kind of emotional roller coaster over the last few months. But I wonder what your hope chart would look like, what your optimism chart for your life would look like over the last few months. Has there been things that caused it to go up? Has there been things to cause it to go down? What about the last couple of years? I wonder what your kind of hope chart, your optimism chart, your view of your future would look like over the last few years. You know, I know that for some people it's going to look all over the place because people have lost people. And people have faced job issues. People have had their kind of hope and optimism wrecked by a medical diagnosis that just sends them crashing down. Did anyone think like me earlier this year, we were finally coming out COVID and we're just going to have some stability in the world. We're just going to have a little bit of a normal season where we can all just process what's happened, and a certain large country invaded another country and we get told it's the worst war in Europe since World War II, and suddenly you're just like, oh my word. I wonder what your hope chart would look like over the last few months, the last few years. And I wonder how hopeful you are right now for your life. If you were to kind of map it out of 5, how hopeful are you right now for your life? I'm not going to ask you to share it with anyone, but how hopeful are you for your life right now out of 5? Are you 4, 5? You're so hopeful, you're so optimistic for your life. It's on the up. I'm sure there'll be 1 or 2 people here. You're probably at the 0. You're at 1. It just looks bleak. It just looks dark. Maybe some news has come in this week, and it's really, really difficult. And whether we're at 4 or 5, whether we're at 0 or 1, whatever our kind of chart has looked like over the last few months, over the last few years, there's a problem with it. Whether you're 4 or 5 or whether you're 0 or 1, and some of you are smart people, I can see it in your eyes. You've already worked out what the problem is. And the problem is this: whether your hope at the moment for your future is 4 or 5, whether it's 0 or 1, when it's based on what happens to you and how well life is going or not going, it's a very fragile, vulnerable foundation for your life. And what that means is your life is going to be a roller coaster. You'll be up when it's going up, you'll be down when it's going down, and you'll be up and you'll be down. And when things are going well, we kind of live in denial, and we'll almost think, listen, it's going to be fine now. I've sorted all the problems out. It's fine now. Parenting's never going to be an issue because my kids are on the straight and narrow. Marriage is sorted. My finances are sorted. And we can kind of get optimistic, and we imagine the future is just up to the right. But when we're really honest, because we don't want to think about bad things and dark things, but when we're honest, actually, when our hope and our optimism for the future is based on how well life is going, it's a very fragile, vulnerable foundation, which means that we just feel up and down all the time. If only there was another way. If only there was another way to be. Only there was another approach when we were not up and down all the time. We didn't have this emotional roller coaster. If only there was a rock solid hope that no matter what happened, we were stable and we were certain and secure and we were not up and down and all over the place. If only that was available to us. I want to read some words to you. They were written a long time ago. If you could have the PowerPoint up, I'm going to read some words to you, which was written a long time ago. They're written around about the 1st century. And they were written to a little group of people who were in Corinth, which is a city in Greece about 50 miles west of Athens. And these words were written to them, which suggest that there's actually another way to be, which suggests it's possible to live life not as a roller coaster, up and down according to how well life goes, that actually there's another way to be, that there's something else on offer to us, which is quite astonishing, which is quite remarkable. And they were written by a guy called Paul, who was one of the early church leaders, and he's writing it to this little Christian community. And if you like the reference, it's 1 Corinthians 15, verses 21 to 23. And this is what it says. And this is just quite remarkable. This is like anything else you're ever going to hear. This is so different from any other approach to life. This is what it says. It says, death came into the world through a man. Now, resurrection from the dead has begun through another man. Just as everyone dies because we belong to Adam, everyone who belongs to Christ will be given new life. What he's saying is, everybody dies. You've experienced death. You've experienced brokenness. You've experienced problems in life. You're part of humanity. You've experienced that. That's kind of come from Adam. That's come from being a human being that's kind of turned away from God. And so you experience the effect of that. Not just literal death, but death of relationships, death of harmony between races and sexes, death of our relationship with the planet, death of our relationship with God. You've experienced problems in all sorts of areas. You might not believe in God or the Bible, but you recognize that because that's your experience. And then Paul says this, he says the resurrection from the dead has begun through another man, meaning Jesus. And the key word there is this one. This is the word that changes everything. The word begun. Because when something's begun, it changes everything about hope. When something has already started, actually emotionally, and it makes it completely different, your experience. So let's imagine you're looking for a job and you're hopeful for a job. You see the advert, you apply, and you're making judgments about how well you're going to get the job. You're thinking about your ability, and it's kind of up and down and all that sort of stuff. But the minute you get offered the job and the process of starting the job happens, you have an anticipation of coming into work, that new job. You have an experience of looking forward to it, but your experience of hope is completely different because the offer of the job has already started. You're not emotionally up and down. Something's happened and it changes completely. Your experience of hope is an anticipation. It's a looking forward to. It's not an emotional roller coaster. And here's what Paul is saying here. This is the mind-boggling thing that sets the way of Jesus apart from any other way. You'll never hear anything like this from any other religion, any atheist, any secular thought theorist, anybody else will not tell you anything remotely like this. This is what Paul's saying. He says, there's a problem with the world. The world's broken. You know that. You experienced that. Jesus came and all that brokenness got put on him. Your brokenness got put on him. Then on the third day, Jesus rose from life and he conquered that life. And what he did is he started a process of the healing of the world. And one day, Jesus is going to come back and he's going to fix everything. Everything that's wrong is going to get put right. We look forward to that. But we're not just hopeful about that. We're not just like, I hope God puts everything right. Actually, it's already started. And that is what is so different. It's already started. It's like you've already been offered the job. The process has already started. And that's what kind of changes everything. So wherever you are right now, if you're a follower of Jesus, what you think is actually it's already started. Somebody has already conquered death. Someone has already defeated despair. Someone has already conquered brokenness. There's a process that started, and I'm in that process, and I'm looking forward to one day when Jesus will put all things right. And things can be a bit all over the place right now. Hurt still affects us. Grief still affects us. But actually our hope is on a certain future because of a certain historical fact that eyewitnesses saw and they wrote about. And that is what changes everything. It's not just, I've got a new idea. I've got a new model. I've got a new way of relationships. It's not just got a new way to conquer health problems. It's not just a new idea. It's not just new advice. It's something historically that's happened. And so the saving of the world, the redeeming and the changing and the healing has started. And that's what changes everything. It's a bit like cooking. Have we got anybody who's a really good cook here? Any really good cooks? Right, nobody. I'm not asking for an invite around anyone's house. Have we got any really bad cooks in the house? Any really bad cooks? We've got a couple. Right, we've got some people volunteering their partner over here. Have we got any really bad cooks? Let's imagine that you're hosting a dinner party and you invite some people over. All right. And you think, I'm going to cook something really special. And you get a recipe book out and you have a look and you think, you look at the pictures. If you're like me, you look at the pictures and you go, that looks nice, we'll do that. And then you've got the instructions. All right. How hopeful you are of that meal and the experience depends on your confidence in your ability, does it not? All right. And even if you're really good, your hope will go up and down as you make it and as you mix it and you're going, I'm not sure this looks how it should. All right, you start to cook it, and maybe you're looking in the oven, and you're thinking, oh, is that texture supposed to be? It should have been done by now. Your hope will go up and down according to your ability. Your anticipation of the future will go up and down based upon that. You start smelling the black stuff, and you're worried, etc., all right? But let's imagine that something completely different happens, and this is what Paul means. Let's imagine that an expert chef comes into your house and said, I've got it covered. Brings the recipe book, looks through, said, I'm going to cook you that. All right, your hope starts to rise. Mine would anyway. And say, I'm going to cook that. And they start to make it. Your hope starts to rise because your confidence is in their ability, not in your own. But this is where it gets really special. Let's imagine that they've made it. And they come to you with a little batch and said, you just want to taste that? And you taste it. And it's exquisite. All right. What level is your hope and anticipation for the meal when they come? Because you've tasted it. You're not just trusting their ability. You're not just trusting what they say. They've already done it. They've already given you a taste. And so as your guests arrive, and your confidence is, I've tasted it. All right, I've had a sample of it. I know what you're going to get. I'm totally confident and hopeful in the meal. Paul says Jesus' resurrection is a bit like that. That Jesus is like a taste. He's like a foretaste of what's going to happen. And when you've experienced the resurrection power of Jesus in your life, it gives you confidence. Think, well, I've tasted it. And my confidence is not just on whether the Bible's true. My confidence is not just whether I go to church. My confidence is I've tasted his resurrection power. I've read the historical accounts. I've tasted his power in my own life. And therefore, I'm really confident of the future because I've tasted it. Not just I've read the instructions, but I've tasted it. And so what Paul says here, and you can read it in the second paragraph there, he said, just as everyone dies because we belong to Adam, meaning we're human and we're broken, etc., everyone who belongs to Christ, everyone who says, you know what, I can't cook the recipe myself. I can't sort life out myself. I can't fix my brokenness. I can't fix my depression. I can't sort out my lack of meaning, my sense of dissatisfaction, my sense of being acceptable to God. I've tried and I can't fix that, so I want to lean on Jesus. Everyone who does that will be given what? Will be given new life. And what that means is when you commit to follow Jesus and you say, listen, I can't fix it myself. I want to rely on you. What happens is you get a taste of new life. You get a taste of what it's like. You get a taste of one day Jesus is going to come and make everything better. He's going to fix everything, make everything sorrowful, happy, sort out joy, all that sort of stuff. But you get a taste of it now. So I've seen all sorts of things, and you've had a taste this morning. You've heard some stories of what Jesus could do, and I've seen some of those things myself. You know, I've seen somebody who's in a car crash when they're younger and have the trauma of being in a car and being nervous and anxious all the time because they think they're going to have a crash again. I've seen Jesus' resurrection power heal them so they can go in a car and be free of that trauma. You know, I've seen somebody who's had difficulty in childbirth, which has affected, damaged their back and had back problems for years. And I've seen Jesus come and heal that. And that doesn't mean you come to Jesus and he heals everything and he makes everything all right. What it means is you get a taste of what's to come. And sometimes we get physical healing because it's a taste of what to come. You know, I used to work in a homeless project last year. And I was with a group of Christians. And because Jesus had given us life as a group of Christians, we wanted to give life to other people. And we wanted to see Jesus change lives. So we set up a homeless project. And we had a house that we bought. And we had kind of 4 guys who would come, single guys, homeless. And the idea is we were just going to love them. And we were just going to care for them. And we were just going to help them put their lives back together if that's what they wanted. And that was up and down. Some went well, some didn't go well. But there was one guy in there. You know, a guy probably in his 60s, and he'd been a heroin addict for decades, probably most of his life. And he'd been in prison, so he'd kind of got clean naturally, and he came out of prison, and he came into our house. And where we are at the moment, he's been in the house for 2 years, and he's been clean of heroin for 2 years. It's a little taste of what can happen. That doesn't mean everyone gets free of every addiction, because we're not there yet. One day, Jesus will put everything right, but we do get a taste right now. I lead a little group in Eccles Park of Manchester. And what we do once a month, we gather together at somebody's house on a Sunday morning and we all have breakfast together. All right, and everyone brings something. Someone brings sausages and bacon, and there'll be pastries and fresh orange and coffee and fruit and all sorts of stuff. We just come, everyone brings a little something and we gather together. And we have kids and we have adults. Some people are divorced, some people are bereaved, some people are married, some people are retired, some people work. Some people got mental health problems. Just a right mash and mix of people, and we come together. And when we come together, if you were a fly in the wall, you would just sense an atmosphere of love and joy and laughter, of acceptance, that actually it's okay to be me in this place. And it's just amazing to be part of. It's not perfect. You know, people hurt each other and everything, etc. But there's something there, and it's a taste. It's not perfect community. We can't make perfect community. But it's a taste of what one day will come. And what Paul is saying here is it's begun. Right? And for people who follow Jesus, it's begun. All right, and we know a historical event has happened which has kickstarted something, and those that commit to Jesus experience new life in all sorts of ways, and you've heard some examples. And it's not a promise to fix everything, but it's a little taste, it's a little sample which gives us confidence of what's to come. It kind of guarantees what's to come, and it gives us a taste of what's to come. Healing's to come. Freedom from addiction is to come. Community is to come. Acceptance is to come. Healing is to come. Countries bringing together is to come. Honoring people in all their diversity is to come. People getting a secure identity and dealing with self-esteem issues, it's to come. All that stuff's to come, and we've got confidence because we've had a little taste now. Now, that doesn't mean that life's easy. That doesn't mean life is easy. And some of you, your hope scale is 0, 1 just now. It's pretty bleak. And believing in the resurrection Jesus and getting a little taste of that doesn't mean you don't experience grief. Doesn't mean the suffering doesn't hit you. All right. But what it does is it sweetens it. What it means is that it doesn't overwhelm you, because your ultimate is not in a healing. Your ultimate is not in a successful marriage. Your ultimate is not in your career. Your ultimate is not on your Facebook likes. Your ultimate is not getting that right job. Your ultimate is not getting that successful whatever it might be. That's not your ultimate. You'd like those things, and they bring joy and they create problems when we don't get it. But that's not our ultimate, and that's not what our hope is. And what that means is life goes up and down, but underneath there's this solidity. There's this solidity that we think, actually, it's happened. Jesus rose from the dead. We get a bit of a taste now, and we look forward for one day Jesus put all things right. When it comes to life, you've only got 2 options. When it comes to life, you've only got 2 options. And the option isn't God or not God. That's not the 2 options. When it comes to life, you've only got 2 options. One option is Jesus, and the other option is everything else, because everything else is actually the same. Everything else is about you living a way in which you think will work out for you. Whether you're following certain religions that say these are the rules, whether you think have lots of money will give you what you need, whether it's getting into the right relationship will give you what you need, whether it's if that girl likes you, that'll give you what you need. All the other ways about something you do to bring security and to bring peace and happiness. And at the center, it's about you. And you may switch between religion and material things and some particular ideas and culture. You may switch for that, but at the center of all the same, which is it's about you. Jesus is the only other way. And Jesus is the only one who says, well, I'll do it for you. And the only condition, there's one condition for the way of Jesus. There's one criteria. And this is a stumbling block for other people. And it may be stumbling block for 1 or 2 people here. There's only one criteria, one condition. It's this. You need to admit that you can't do it. You need to admit that you can't bake the cake. You need to admit that you can't fix your life. You need to admit that you can't do it, and you need Jesus to do it. That's it. That is as simple as it gets. And there's 2 types of people here this morning. And I'm going to give you a kind of response for the 2 types of people, if you want this to be more than just an interesting message or a boring message, whichever it might be. If this might be a moment where your life changes, there's 2 types of people. And type 1 person is somebody who, you're not a religious person, all right? You're not a kind of church person. You might believe in God, you might not, but Jesus isn't the center of your life. You're kind of maybe ambivalent or even hostile to it, all right? And but you sense in the last 20 minutes or so that there's not just a human being speaking on stage. All right? You maybe come because someone invited you, or you turned up because it's Easter Sunday, or whatever it might be. And at this moment, you're captured with a sense of surprise because you know that something is going on right now, and it's not just someone on the stage talking about something. Your expectations are getting a bit messed up because you're like, actually, there's something going on here, and I wonder if there's something more. And you could just respond to Jesus right now if you want. You could just say, actually, I'm not going to rely on myself. I'm going to rely on Jesus. I'm going to ask for his resurrection power. And you could just say yes right now if you want to. My experience of walking with people in that situation is it takes them a bit of time to process. Sometimes it takes people quite a long time to kind of go on that journey. And you may have people just you could speak to, but I want to make you an offer in that position. And the offer is this. To go onto our website, lifechurch.uk.net, or search Life Church Manchester on Google, and go to the Contact Us page, and there's a box there, and just put in your details, your name, email address, and there's a box for any questions or comments. And I want to offer you to walk with you on your journey. All right, if something's going on and you think, oh, something's going on, I'd like to go on the journey. I want to offer to walk with you on the journey. You may have other people, that's fine, but I want to offer. And if you go on the website and put into the Contact Us page, that'll come straight to me, straight into my email. And I'll have as many email conversations with you as you want. All right, I'll have as many coffee conversations. Say, well, what about this? And you didn't talk about this, and I don't believe it because of this, and tell me more about that. And I'll have as many conversations as you want, because I've seen numbers of people walk that journey and just experience what God can offer them, but it takes a bit of time to process. No pressure, but that's what I want to offer. And there's a second type of person, and the second type of person would call themselves a Christian, a follower of Jesus. Yeah, you're a church person, you've been baptized, perhaps you've been committed, but you live an emotional roller coaster. All right, when I described my journey at the beginning, maybe on more serious aspects of life, you're up and down. And if that's you, then you're like somebody who's got £1 million in the bank that somebody's give you, and you're worried about how to pay the bills. It's like, you've got it all. Just withdraw it from the bank. All right. Emotionally, you're up and down. And you're thinking, I'm optimistic about life. I'm not optimistic about life. It's like, you've already got it all. Did you not know that Jesus has risen from the dead, that he's conquered everything, that he started something, that you can experience a little taste of him now, and you can look forward to one day him coming back and putting everything right, and you've got the guarantee because you've got the taste and you've got the event that happened. So if that really enters your being, what are you worrying about? To put it slightly bluntly. And I know that life hits us, and it's difficult. I lost my dad last year. I was divorced a couple of years ago. I understand about the pain of life, but I also know that grief can be sweetened. And I also know it doesn't need to overwhelm us if we left the fullness of what God wants to offer us. And so if you're in that position, I want to invite you to maybe just take the verse that we're looking at the top there. The resurrection from the dead has begun. And I want you to just take that phrase. The resurrection of the dead has begun. The conquering of despair, the conquering of the death, the conquering of brokenness, the conquering of anxiety, the conquering of depression, the conquering of lostness, the conquering of broken relationships. It's begun. It hasn't completed, but it's begun. And that's what can give us strength to sustain us as we look forward to the inevitable fixing of all things. And I want to encourage you just to carry that phrase. The resurrection of the dead, it's begun. The conquering everything has begun. And just meditate on that. Every time your emotions are all over the place, just remember that and let it seep deeper and deeper till the truth of what you believe affects your emotional life. Do you want to stand? I'm going to invite the band to come back up. If you're not a church person, you wouldn't consider you religious, but you want to explore stuff, then get on our website, send me a message, and I'll talk to you as much as you want to. If you live a emotional roller coaster, remember it's begun. There's a certainty and the solidity. Don't beat yourself up because you feel all over the place, but just invite Jesus to lean into the hope. And Father, I just want to pray for those two groups of people. I want to pray for those people whose their expectations are all over the place this morning because they thought church was full of old people and had nothing to do with normal everyday life. And they've heard about all situations on stage and you're doing something in life. I will pray that your Spirit will just encourage them, that they may know that you've got a purpose for them, that you want to bring them life, that you just want to take them on a little journey and an adventure. And for those of us who follow Jesus, but actually more we're in a roller coaster, we're up and down, and we put more trust in our circumstances than in the fact of your resurrection. Will you take that truth that it's all began and we can be certain of the future? Will you take that just to go from our heads and from our Bibles into our emotional lives? Amen. Let's just sing.